There's a prologue. The gods of the right-hand path have bickered and quarrelled for an entire age of earth. Each of these deities and their respective priests and ministers have attempted to find wisdom in their own lives. The ice age of religious thought can last but a limited time in this great scheme of human existence. The gods of wisdom defiled have had their saga, and the millennium has become as reality. Each with his own divine path to paradise have accused the other of heresies and spiritual indiscretions. The ring of the Nibelungen doeth carry an everlasting curse, but only because those who seek it think in terms of good and evil, themselves being all at all times good. The gods of the past have become as their own devils in order to live. Feebly their ministers play the devil's game to fill their tabernacles and pay the mortgages on their temples. Alas, too long have they studied righteousness, and poor and incompetent devils they make. So they all join hands in brotherly unity, and in their incompetent devils they make. So they all join hands in brotherly unity, and in their desperation go to Valhalla for the last great ecumenical council. Draweth near in the gloom the twilight of the gods. The ravens of night have flown forth to summon Loki, who has set Valhalla aflame with the searing trident of the inferno. The twilight is done, a glow of new light is home out of the night, and Lucifer is risen once more to proclaim this is his age, Satan rules the earth, all this sort of stuff. Okay, so then he goes on about Hail Satan here, right? The 9 satanic statements. That he represents indulgence instead of abstinence, represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years. The Book of Satan, the Infernal Diatribe. The first book of the Satanic Bible is not just an attempt to blaspheme as much as it is a statement of what might be termed diabolical indignation. The devil has been attacked by the men of God relentlessly and without reservation. Never has there been an opportunity, short of fiction, for the dark prince to speak out in the same manner as the spokesman of the Lord of the righteous. The pulpit pounders of the past have been free to define good and evil as they see fit, and have gladly smashed into oblivion any who disagree with their lies, both verbally and at times physically. Their talk of charity. There's some truth in that. It's like you go to a church, and if you don't conform, they can give you a really, really hard time. Right? They can tell you, oh, don't associate with that person. Okay, that person's left the church. Your family member or whatever. Oh, don't talk to them. Don't have any association with them. They can be like that. So yeah, in some ways, he's right. Okay. In others, we don't believe he is. The pulpit pounders of the past have been free to define good and evil as they see fit, and have gladly smashed into oblivion any who disagree with their lies, both verbally and at times physically. Their talk of charity, when applied to his infernal majesty, becomes an empty sham, and most unfairly too, considering the obvious fact that without their satanic foe, their very religions would collapse. How sad that the allegorical personage most responsible for their very religions would collapse. How sad that the allegorical personage most responsible for the success of spiritual religions has shown the least amount of charity and the most consistent abuse, and by those who most unctuously preach the rules of fair play. For all the centuries of shouting down the devil has received, he has never shouted back at his detractors. He has remained a gentleman at all times. He goes on and on about that. He goes, each word is a tongue of fire, the flames of hell burn fierce and purify. Read on and learn the law. And he goes on about the book of Satan here. In this arid wilderness of steel and stone I raise up my voice that you may hear. To the east and to the west I beckon, to the north and to the south I show a sign proclaiming, death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. Open your eyes that you may see, O men of mildewed minds. and listen to me, ye bewildered millions. For I stand forth to challenge the wisdom of the world, to interrogate the laws of man and of God. I request the reason for your golden rule and ask the why and wherefore of your 10 commandments. Before none of your printed idols do I bend in acquiescence, and he who saith, thou shalt, to me is my mortal foe or enemy. I dip my forefinger into the watery blood of your impotent... Okay, it goes on about Jesus there, blaspheming, all this sort of stuff. We're not going to go there. Okay, the Book of Satan. Behold the crucifix, what does it symbolise? Pallid incompetence hanging on a tree. Okay, he's blaspheming there again. Love one another has been said as the supreme law, but what power made it so? Upon what rational authority does the gospel of love rest? Why should I not hate mine enemies? If I love them, does that not place me at their mercy? Or make you look weak or whatever like that? Yeah, okay, we can relate to that. Like, you help people with their sob story, they say this, they say that, but really it's a lie. They're just using you to store their stuff in your garage or whatever, or take advantage of your cash. Anything like that, and then you find out, this is true, how manipulative, how schemy they are, how nasty they are when they turn on you and call you all the names under the sun. Because you might say something like, well, time's up, your stuff's been here for too long, you got to take it away or I sell it. And they don't for a year, so you sell it. You have every right to sell it. They come back and get all nasty at you. What'd you sell my stuff for? Well, you haven't been here for a year, 2 years, whatever, and checked it out. Citizens' advice or whatever. What can I do legally? And they suggested, well, it's been that long, you can't get hold of them, whatever. Yeah, okay. Something like that happens. All the time they were just using you. A lot of their stuff, okay, for example, one person that did that to us had a big sob story, but it was all lies. He just wanted somebody to store all the stolen stuff and pick it up whenever he wanted. He was a crack addict, all that sort of stuff. Okay, you can forgive, but yeah, it's not that hard, not that easy to forget, right? Okay, they just basically took advantage and called you with names under the sun, threatened you, kicked your gates in, stole your stuff, all that sort of stuff. No, that's someone who's mad in the head, okay, basically. A manipulator, a bully, etc., etc., a thief. Don't stand for that rubbish, right? Okay, so he goes on and on here. Yeah, in some ways, apart from all the satanic praise, the devil, whatever, there is some truth there, okay. But love conquers all this sort of stuff. Love is good, all that real love, agape love of the Christ, of God, etc., etc., right? Love one another, it has been said as the supreme law. What power made it so? God made it so. Can the torn and bloody victim love the blood-splashed jaws that rend him limb from limb? Are we all not predatory animals by instinct? If humans ceased wholly from preying upon each other, could they continue to exist? Is not lust and carnal desire a more truthful term to describe love when applied to the continuance of the race? Yeah, there's human love and then there's agape love, God's love, the Christ love. Very, very different to human love. Love is fondness. You're thinking of that person over and over again and you're imagining, oh, what if it was like this and all that, all that sort of stuff. And maybe the female tries to change that male and he's like, no, I'm going to go see my bros and you ain't going to stop me. And she's like, well, don't bother coming back, all that sort of stuff. She's trying to change the man to her way of thinking, right? To her imagination. Yeah. Just doesn't work like that. Two different minds, two different mindsets. A man is not going to stand for being caged by any woman. I doubt that, right? I doubt that he would stand that. Unless you're a very walkover weakling, right? Love your enemies and do good to them that hate and use you. Is this not the despicable philosophy of the spaniel that rolls upon its back when kicked? And so forth. Book of Satan 4. Life is the great indulgence, death the great abstinence. Therefore make the most of life here and now. Okay, then he says there's no heaven of glory bright and no hell where sinners roast. Well, I wonder where he is today. Here and now is our day of torment. Yeah, life is a torment, isn't it? Life's a biatch. She's not fair. She's never fair. Life's not fair. It can be horrible. Okay? Hell on earth. Here and now is our day of joy. Here and now is our opportunity. Yeah, so we say, forget all the mind games, all this crap, Go hard. Find out a way to be happier, To have a smile on your face, to laugh, to enjoy each other's company. This is what life is meant to be, isn't it? Even though life's a biatch and throws horrible things your way, try to find a way around it. Forget all these games and these mindsets and all these sort of mind games. She did this, you said that, all this gossip crap, right? Find the key to lasting laughter, life, fun, but not at someone's expense. And then he has, in Book of Satan 5, it's like these blessings. He's taken the Beatitudes by the look of it and totally twisted it. The Book of Lucifer, the Enlightenment. The Roman god Lucifer was the bearer of light, the spirit of the air, the personification of enlightenment. In Christian mythology, he became synonymous with evil, which was only to have been expected from a religion whose very existence is perpetuated by clouded definitions and bogus values. Okay, so this Roman god was Lucifer. Probably the planet. Was it the planet Saturn? He says here, it's time to set the record straight. False moralisms and occult inaccuracies must be corrected. Entertaining as they might be, most stories and plays about devil worship must be recognised as the obsolete absurdities they are. So probably these Christopher Lee ones, the satanic rites of Dracula and all that sort of stuff, or whatever he was in, Anton LaVey will probably laugh at it, right? That's not how it is. It has been said that the truth will make men free. The truth alone has never set anyone free. Really? It is only doubt which will bring mental emancipation or liberation. Without the wonderful element of doubt, the doorway through which truth passes will be tightly shut, impervious to the most generous poundings of 1,000 Lucifers. How understandable that Holy Scripture should refer to the infernal monarch as the father of lies, a magnificent example of character inversion. If one is to believe this theological accusation that the devil represents falsehood, then it surely must be concurred that it was he, not God, that established all spiritual religions and who wrote all of the Holy Bibles. When one doubt is followed by another, the bubble grown large from long accumulated fallacies threatens to burst. So we see that there's some truths here when you look at it, right? Reason, common sense, logic, but everything else is fluff. That's just our opinion. Others have theirs, we have ours. Because there's a French rabbi, a French accented rabbi that says the devil, no, he's not what the Christians claim he is. He's like Wilkerson, is it? Of Willy Wonka, the original Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder, the sidekick that went out and whispered in the ears of the children that won the golden tickets, get me an everlasting gobstopper, and yeah, sure, you'd have all the supply of chocolate, whatever. Okay, and then at the end, when Charlie gets told off or scolded by Willy Wonka because they went up, him and his grandpa floated up in the air drinking that soda pop, and they dirtied the roof and all that sort of stuff. He's got to clean it. He said, you failed because you broke law, whatever, right? And he handed the everlasting gobstopper back, right? And this Wilkinson, or what his name was, came in and he says, hey, that's that guy. He says, yeah, he's my assistant. So this French rabbi is saying, well, Lucifer's like that. He's how could something created by God, an angel created by God to do God's will, suddenly turn on him, right? And become the opposite, become evil and all that, as depicted. He's like a tester. He tests you to see if you will be faithful and all this sort of stuff. That's his claim, this French rabbi. We don't know his name, we've forgotten his name. But we came across this lecture that he gave, and that's what he said. And here he has wanted God, dead or alive. It is a popular misconception that the Satanist does not believe in God. The concept of God, as interpreted by man, has been so varied throughout the ages that the Satanist simply accepts the definition in which suits him best. Man has always created his gods, rather than his gods creating him. God is to some benign, to others terrifying. To the Satanist, God, by whatever name he is called, or by no name at all, is seen as the balancing factor in nature and not as being concerned with suffering. This powerful force which permeates and balances the universe is far too impersonal to care about the happiness or misery of flesh and blood creatures on this ball of dirt upon which we live. Anyone who thinks of Satan as evil should consider all the men, women, children and animals who have died because it was God's will. Certainly a person grieving the untimely loss of a loved one would much rather have their loved one with them than in God's hands. Instead, they are anxiously consoled by their clergyman who says, it was God's will, my dear, or he is in God's hands now, my son. Such phrases have been a convenient way for religionists to condone or excuse the mercilessness of God. Okay. Okay, so we remember a couple of uncles that were ministers of their church, and when a family member passed away, they came out and said, oh yeah, she's in heaven now with God, all this sort of stuff. Yet the scriptures actually say you die a physical death and then you're in your grave, Sheol, or place of the dead, until judgment day. When the trumpets are blown, angel blows the trumpet and you all resurrect and you stand before God. You go to condemnation or oblivion, or you are told, great work, blessed servant, well done, off you go to paradise. Okay? It's even in the scriptures. Those who were killed in the name of Christ, etc., etc., they're the first to be resurrected, supposedly, right? And then all the rest of us that are still alive, apparently, taken up in a rapture to be with him. It's actually written in the original ancient Galilean Aramaic New Testament. It's there. These people out there deny that, oh, there's no rapture. It's actually there in the Galilean Aramaic New Testament, translated by Victor and Alexander, which was hidden for over 2,000 years by the Apostolic Church of the East. And he got hold of it from being a high priest of that particular church when he's translating from the Peshitta or something like that. And he was told, oh, that's actually wrong, because it's from the Greek Septuagint, translation from that into the Syriac. And he's like, oh my gosh. So he bought a Bible format copy of the original ancient Galilean Aramaic manuscripts from the Church of the East, and then began to translate from them into the nearest English equivalent, without the prejudice bias most common to today's translators.